And everybody knows it. Hollywood rolls out its blockbusters every summer, and video game companies are never far behind with a quick game to cash in on the franchise. Now, most of the time, they're panned by critics and gamers alike, so why do they keep happening? Another summer means another slew of blockbuster movies hitting the local theaters. And with the frenzy of films comes a new group of video games based on them. Summer is not traditionally known for great video game releases, especially when they're based on movies. However, there are exceptions like The Chronicles of Riddick and Scarface, which lead most gamers to hope that their favorite films can be translated into a quality game. Unfortunately, the majority of movie-licensed games seem like messy products glued together just to coincide with their big screen counterparts.
Smooth enough.
This is so lame.
Is there any hope for games based on movies, or will they forever be a rushed product with a license slapped on?
Oh my gosh, this is so pathetic.
The exits are located at the front and the rear of the auditorium.
This is so lame.
It's The Loop. All right, my guest tonight, editor for Electronic Gaming Monthly, Shane Bettenhausen is here, and executive producer of the Vinny Universal's Riddick and Scarface games, Pete Wannett is here. Pete, you loved Shrek the Third for the 360, though. I just want to get that out, right? You were ranting and raving, correct?
Absolutely. It's all for the achievements.
Okay, good. Shane, let's start with you, sir. Is it just some weird misconception, or do these movie games really suck that badly?
They really do, and it's not a new thing. I mean, E.T. came out for 2600 like over 20 years ago, and that started the sucking, and they've been sucking ever since.
So E.T. was the suckage trendsetter, you're saying?
It was, and they still suck. The majority of these games are totally sucky, and people still buy them, as you said. But maybe that'll change, hopefully.
Yeah, Pete, what's going on? I mean, this has been happening for years now. I mean, what makes these games so terrible?
Well, I mean, I think everybody shares some of the blame. I think you have the Hollywood studios, you have publishers, you have developers. Everybody tries to do it on a rush schedule. There's a lot of license slapping going on. It happens. I mean, especially when there's a lot of money to be made. When you have that much money to be made over the summer big Hollywood blockbuster season, you're going to have a lot of movie-based games that have license slapped on top of them. I think.
Well, now, does the license itself hurt the game when it gets slapped on, or would these games suck without the time?
I think, these games would suck regardless. I mean, if you try to do a game in a very short time frame to capitalize on a big movie, oftentimes those games are going to pay the price for it. What really hurts is when you have games based on movies where, the developer and the publisher and the studio all put in the amount of time needed to create a great game. If everybody got, Valve or Blizzard or Bungie time periods and money and budgets to make games, movie-based games would be as good as, any of those games.
So, Shane, why are people buying these things when we know the precedent has been set for years? Why are gamers still going out there and supporting these titles?
Well, I mean, the marketing machine is in place, and they get advertised very heavily. And, the people like Spider-Man, they like Pirates, they think, oh, I'm going to like the game. But the truth is, these games are made really quickly by developers that usually aren't the best developers, and they also come out across all these platforms. So you get the same game ported across multiple systems, and they don't take advantage of what's good about a system.
Right. And now, to Pete's credit, he has churned out some of the best, I think, movie games out there. But let's point some fingers, Pete. Let's burn some bridges, all right? I don't want you to ever get another game. You briefly kind of brushed over it, but who's really to blame for the mediocrity here? Is it big-time Hollywood studios? Is it the publishers? Or is it the actual developer of the game?
I mean, I think, like I said before, it really is, all three share in the responsibility. It's, if you want to make a great game, you need the proper amount of time to make that game, and you need a real budget. Oftentimes, what really hurts movie-based games are you end up paying so much for the licensing fee of the movie. If you want to do a movie based on Pirates of the Caribbean, it's going to cost you a ton to get that license, and therefore the game may suffer. I'm not saying that's the case for Pirates, but on a lot of these movie-based games, that's what happens. You spend so much, the publisher spends so much money on the license, there's not enough left over to go into the quality of the game.
So when I look at a game like Scarface, or I look at a game like Riddick, what am I seeing done right? Like, what hurdles did you guys actually leap? What pitfalls were avoided here?
Well, I mean, I think Shane brings up a good point. If you work with quality developers, whether it's Starbreeze or like the
Radical,
Warriors, then you're going to have a quality-based game. If you work with lesser developers, they're going to you're going to suffer that fate.
And now, Shane, you were bringing up the Warriors there?
Right. I think the Warriors and Scarface and The Godfather, those are examples where the developers obviously liked the project. They had a lot of time to work on it. They weren't working with the deadline that this game has to be out day and date with the film. That's the big problem. Those games are so rushed and they're just not finished. And that's why you play these games that just don't seem good.
Well, now, over half of the next-gen titles coming out this summer are movie-based games, and the quality so far seems to be on par with that of the previous generation. So Shane, when I'm looking at these titles coming out, some cost, $60, $70 a pop. Aren't players going to start demanding more, and are we going to finally see a backlash against these types of games?
I hope so, and it is starting. Spider-Man 3, it had softer than expected sales, and negative reviews, bad word of mouth, obviously played a part in that. But as you say, these games for example, Surf's Up that just came out, that's on an Unreal 2 engine, whereas you're used to seeing Unreal 3 games on PS3 and 360. And those old games, they're kind of ruining the next gen consoles because they make your new $500 console seem underpowered. And I think it's a big problem.
If I could get the Game Gear 3 Ninjas game on the Virtual Console, though, I'd still buy it. Am I part of the problem as well?
Yeah, you probably are.
Okay. All right. Now, Pete, because you've been on the development side of things and you've seen what can happen, I mean, should we as gamers cut some of these companies slack when they're forced to do a movie tie-in game, or should we hold them to the same standards as any other developer?
Well, I mean, I think gamers should hold them to the same standards. I think, when it comes to critical reviews, oftentimes I think the press needs to look at, how long the game was in development for and take it to task, not slam the game itself, but take the, actual process to task. As much as the game itself.
All right, Pete, do you see it getting better? Do you see the studios understanding that they need more lead time and more money?
Yeah, I think what you see now is a case where Hollywood executives, they're playing games now. And, there are people who work in the game industry, like Bill Kispert over at Universal, who, he goes home every night and plays games. He knows the quality. And so if a game, if you look at the games that Universal has done, even, not the ones that we've done with them, but even King Kong, you've seen some of the more successful games come from people who actually really play games. And that's the most important thing. If you want the quality of the games to go up, you have to have people working at the studios who know games.
All right, Shane, I want to give you the final word, sir. What would actually make the best movie-based video game? Let's pie in the sky here.
I've always wanted to see a Logan's Run game. I think that's a really cool movie that no one's ever tapped. And kind of like with Scarface or The Warriors, if the right people, found a license from the 70s like that and really did it right, I think you could reach a whole new audience with a game like that.
I got to tap Pete's brain as well. Pete, what do you think? Best movie game? Come on.
I really would like to see Escape from New York done. Open world gameplay, post-apocalyptic Manhattan.
I think somebody has that. I think someone has that license, Pete. I don't know. I think it's out there.
Oh, well, they beat me to it, so.
That's all right. Hopefully it has Wiimote controls and a bunch of achievements and a whole bunch of other crap that doesn't actually enhance the gameplay. I really hope so. Thanks to my guests, Shane and Pete, for joining us and keeping us in the loop.
Attack of the Show, weeknights at 7, only on G4.